due to the fact that whoever wins this map will go to the grand finals and will there in those grand finals already have a one map advantage to whoever will be their opponent. That will be decided right after this.
Well, Cafe Dostoevsky, as those guys broke it down, there is the potential of VODs prep and homework during the map break. I went on a little jaunt around Twitter, had a look at, through something major's just been announced, but I don't know what that is. I'm not paying enough attention. But I did see Eaglemees was reacting to Reaper and talking about the prep work. Little winky faces about the work that they've done against Empire, and so far they believed that that map went perfectly to plan, which to be fair it did, though he didn't want to tweet. He didn't want to get himself on the R6 events Twitter.
Very, very wise. We have I think we all have failed.
Yeah.
Have you been on R6 events yet? I think you have been, right?
Oh, 100%. Everything I say is worthy of being wrong. I'm not here to be right. I'm here to shout about video games. And here's a good one to shout about. Now, with our bans coming through, a standard set of removals here across the board. No real surprises. Obviously, you've got the worry of shields, but the Wamai is going to mean that burning those out is a little bit of a quicker process. Goyo is free. He's on the board, but when we've seen BDS here before, they haven't removed Goyo. They've gone for the Wamai instead. Empire do love a good cheeky bit of a stretch of Goyo. Not as much as their country folk Virtus Pro, but still, it's a big blow and a lot of angles and shields that you've got to work your way through.
Defenders, protect your bombs from being defused by attackers.
That is basically Cafe. It's often a map, especially the top four, where it wouldn't be too weird to see 4 shields to be played. Now, luckily for BDS, it will only be 3, as we see the beautiful ACS by Joystick being portrayed again.
Oh, it's so loud.
Has the opportunity. Yeah, it's really loud. You don't really see it. You'll hear it.
Yeah.
it's like C4 is going off with every shot that will be fired. Basically, that is the amount of sound you can compare it to. But I wanted to say, he opens up that bar on the sides to create longer angles, so you can actually try and challenge if someone tries to plan behind those ends of that bar.
Well, the stack up now starts to come through as we see ourselves in what is a very familiar Cafe. As I said before, the bans, it's familiar. And this setup, yep, we see some teams play this pretty continually. You obviously have the shield as the standard on Pixel. It's the Goyo, which makes it a little bit dangerous, but it's going to be blown up anyway. So at least you can do it in a way that pulls the pressure back and gives you a little bit of time. And a huge amount of warning to when it's going to be popped as well. You can always generally tell that Goyo is going to go. You have enough of those ADSs to buy you the seconds you need to rotate so you don't get accidentally caught behind the fire that explodes out of it. It's the worst surprise is a Goyo surprise.
You could say that when you're thinking you're safe, watching between those little mirror windows and suddenly the shield blows up in your face.
Yeah.
It's not a very pleasant surprise. Well, it is for the defenders when they manage to get a kill of it. But it's not really what you were hoping for, as the C4 gets tossed out. Will not be able to find the kill onto Rinchiro, who then decides to toss in a drone right after, hoping to get some of the information out, but doesn't get further than around the corner as it instantly gets taken out by the defender playing up there.
Creeping Shaiko is looking to try and cause some problems below. Alems has the cover here and is able to set up the air jabs. It seems like they want to go for a very intense burst of pressure. A slightly different style and strategy on the attack, as Scyther might be the first point of contact here as they dig themselves underneath the site itself. Dan has come to support. Empire have read this very, very well. Looking towards 90, trying to catch Shaiko as he swings round, but it's a dangerous dancing game. They're well aware on where BDS's focus is, but it's Shepard that actually suffers first upstairs, and there's another quick take and another one too. BDS instantly lock everything down, leaving just 2 slightly shell-shocked players of Empire left on the second story.
Talking about shell shocks, that ACS is still able to be played, and well, that is definitely a couple of shells that will be flying your way. The question is, however, will he be put into a position where he can fight multiple 1v1s, as the information is there to know exactly where he is. Always, however, will start things off, gets the kill down. Hunter and Shiro, that is the start of a potential 5v2 clutch to come through. The Joystick swaps over to the Karatas 357. hoping to take down Shaiko. More flashbangs being tossed up, but the follow-up will actually not be there yet. He's patiently waiting for him to make a mistake. He's patiently waiting for Joystick to put up the first move, and it's right now flashbangs are being tossed in from the window as well. Will be a blind up for them, a beautiful one-tap coming in from that pistol, but will be taken down by the grenade that was just being tossed through as well, and that leaves us in a 1v3 situation. Always the last man standing.
Well, the nice shot in the TY comes into the chat, but with only a handful of seconds left, they've still got to do the important part of putting the diffuser down. There's the call, there's the pings, and there's the movement from Always. Realizes the play's being made, hits the man on the table, but it's now a post-plant situation. They knew they needed to apply the pace, and unfortunately not enough as they get put back down. Alems opened the round with a kill and closed it with the last and the diffuser plant too. A player who is sometimes a huge force, but hasn't been able to be the force to be reckoned with yet, opens up in the way BDS fans are probably very excited about.
That's the thing, if you have a team with so many players that can just show up at any given point, you don't always have to. And it's important that when you actually have to, you will be there. And this round was a good example. Was a lot of time being stalled out, and suddenly he manages to pick up 3 frags, and as you said, that diffuser. Empire nowhere to be found that round. Very quickly dispatched on that first floor, and after that, or second floor. Sorry, Dutchness kicking in.
I mean, it's the thing. I call it as like ground floor, first floor, second floor. The game,
yeah, same here.
The game doesn't. So obviously, as you see right now, America, that this is first floor. I guess I can't say America. It's Canada. The game, Canada,
North America.
North America, first floor. Wrong, ground floor. Anyway, that's
please.
a whole side rant about elevators and how they function. Let's have a look now. And instead look towards Empire, who, as you said, they've opted to head down to the kitchen.
Yeah, there's 2 ways of going at it. Either you continue the side you just lost at, or you continue your rotation as if you won. And it really depends. Like, what do you prefer? Do you like to continue your rotation and like, you know, be in that rhythm that you use when you scrim and during every single official match that you play? Or do you want to try and run it back? If you spot it out, okay, 1 or 2 little mistakes happened. If we manage to play that differently, we will surely win that side. Like, there's 2 ways of going at it, and it really depends per team and maybe even per day what they feel like.
Day feels like sitting around in the Christmas market and enjoying the slow creep of Christmas that is getting, unfortunately, steadier, closer. I saw my first Santa decorations and it put a bit of fear into my heart. Still 2 months away, but that's a side rant and a side fear. The main fear right now is BDS. Can you keep up this momentum? Empire, can you stop it? BDS are already putting the pressure on the second story. Rafale is bringing out the pretty standard and familiar Iana at this point today. They are loving the use of her as the live drone and I guess forcing themselves into these early kind of positions of pressure they can apply towards Empire. They know Empire like to occasionally swing, dance and jiggle onto angles. Dan is very familiar with those quick peaks and quick bits of momentum, so Iana can just play against that and oh yeah, 4 frag grenades. Mwah.
We're about to blow some stuff up. We can say that much. They're ready with those frag grenades. They have the S charges available as well. All they need to do now is find the right positions as these C4s are being tossed out left, right, and center, but neither of them will find a kill. Neither of them will deal damage, and that is a very bad outcome here for Empire. That means that a lot of their, well, basically denial utility has been used already and leaves them with just those 3 smoke canisters that Shepard has in pocket.
They're keeping a keen eye onto the shield and making sure they have a lockdown, but Alems locks down Dan and goes for 1 more behind the bar, hitting only bottles so far. But that is a very dangerous position to be in. Shaiko's here to offer some pinch pressure and puts it down onto Scyther. There's still 1 more body as Shepard's dug in, but my word, it's a dangerous position. A slight move either way killed him. And now it's just 1 more push that they need to make towards the site itself to get the 2 more players of Empire that are holding steady. They are surrounded above and all fronts are cold right now, but well, they're not quite functioning as well inside. There is 1 more and Always creeps around like the scene from Jurassic Park. The Velociraptors are all over the kitchen. They knock the pans down and, well, this time it ends in a way that probably wouldn't be on the big screen.
An absolute murder. BDS taking down Empire that round absolutely destroyed them, as they are currently 2-0 up. And, well, I said it might be a nail-biter. This might be a very close matchup to come through, but BDS is having none of that. And trying to make sure that they will finish this map before you can finish your drink, as they are putting up some pressure. They are putting up some speed, and Empire are yet to be, well, yet to get awake. They have to be woken up during this matchup, because they're currently being, well, dominated by BDS without them even knowing it, it looks like.
Attackers need to locate and
2-0. BDS, you've started on the right foot. You're on your attack on Cafe, and you've already solidified what for a lot of teams is a standard half. You have the potential to have much more. Empire really need to step themselves up and into this game right now, and it's obvious that BDS have learned several lessons when things started to go wrong. But hey, how was it before? Last time a team opened up the game with 2 rounds, it was the last map. Oregon and Empire did the same, and then suddenly 5 rounds in a row from their opponents who realized things were slipping away. It's now Empire's turn to see if they can repay the favor from Oregon and reassert themselves as a team taking this.
So they need to take it, and they need to take it now. It's still a defense-sided map in our defense-sided game, and Empire currently being 2-0 behind on the attack means that there is not a single round anymore. It should be going to be times 3. There we go, 3 times the charm. As always, finally able to get his cam through. Not really in the spot where he wanted it, as it looked like he wanted to get it into the display. But hey, we'll still be able to get some information from that. Able to look through the whole screen about a deagle above as well. Interested to see what it will bring.
BDS, they're quick to apply themselves against this Valkyrie who's trying to hold on to the top floor so far. Locked in around the Christmas decorations, but has instead opted to get out of them. They have the camera in the eyes and the potential of either of those 2 C4s to cause some trouble if they do want to get themselves locked in quickly enough. But something that we've seen before from these 2 teams is coming out aplomb right now. The Nomad, locking out the possibility of the roam game. A creative burst of aggression both teams are capable of. And now it seems both teams want to keep a lock down on.
Flashbangs being tossed in just to make sure that all the utility has been taken out, and that means you can then throw in those S charges just to make sure that the bulletproof cam will be taken care of. However, they use 3 flashbangs now to try and clear out 1 bulletproof camera, and there's still 3 ADSs all active and all without any charges taken out of them, meaning that they might be getting into an issue later on. Yes, they still have 6 flashbangs left, so there is still the opportunity to clear them out. Still have that 1 air jump as well you could use if you really want to, but it is not looking too good on that utility count of BDS, especially when a run-out comes through. Dan will be able to take down Alems all the way from the garage, and now makes his way back up. It's always to put up some damage onto Shaiko, and eventually will pick up that kill as well. And Rishiro trying to go for the response will finally get it, putting BDS back on the board right here for this round.
Takes a huge amount of damage in the confrontation though, and that's going to make things a little bit awkward on the rest of the approach, especially as the sledge has so much left to do, and even just a sliver or a fraction of any destruction from underneath could cause some problems. Not 100% sure what that was, but hey, at least you didn't take damage while steering it. Now 30 seconds, hatch is being popped open, and they're still trying to get this collapse and lock down on the 2nd story. Joystick finally drops down, rotates via the laundry room and pulls themselves back round. But look at this, the repositioning from Dan, going deep, going on an explore and going towards the pillar stairs, I assume, with the potential of creeping up and applying the pressure from behind. You assume the air jabs are set up there too, and Rafal is going to lock down Shepard and tries to swing in onto the 1 more body behind the train equipment, but always pushes forward and gets dropped close. Now it's a 3 versus 1, but oh, look at this, Dan! He crept round the stairs, but he doesn't see the man on laundry. It comes down to a frantic firefight. Renshiro, with the last bullets in the mag, finds the round and finds 1 more for BDS. Dan so close to the best clutch we've seen all tournament.
Was waiting a bit, hoping to stop that plan and buy some time, but instead of falling back out of the actual room in an angle where he could cover for that diffuser, he tried to go in, dig himself deeper in the lion's nest or hole or whatever, and yeah, I mean, English sayings.
That's like a chimera. They're the lions with wings. Lions,
I know.
Lions,
Like,
Lions Den.
Lion's Den, right? Yeah, okay. I was gonna say I know it now. I just like messing up sayings. It's something I brought over from Dutch casting as well. Not really my strong point, but the point I was trying to make is he's trying to hide in plain sight right there, just be in the middle of the site, because there's no way that someone who dropped the diffuser with only 4 seconds left will be hiding on the site after he just committed a murder there. There's no way someone would do that, and he almost got away with it if it wasn't for him to be just spotted out by the sledge of the team. Renshiro was able to finish him off after a missed magazine with the L85, but a very much accurate one with the SMG-11.
BDS 3-0, but that last one was almost pulled away in a similar fashion to how things started on Coast, though these sides were flipped. Empire seemed to be the team that had the lockdown, and through some little clutch plays like that, like we saw from Brede very early on, it was almost a couple of rounds that, well, pulled away. We know how the map ended though, so Empire, you've got to again just try and step it up further and further. Big plays don't usually lead to continual results.
BDS 3-0 right now. That could have been a round that maybe would have been Empire's if that clutch would have gone a little bit better than it did, or if not many members were taken out in the actual mid phase of that round, as they were. Shaiko right now in the middle of the train museum will be pushing himself towards the dining area, all the way up to potentially the white stairs to try and play around Joystick again, who has been playing there the last time. It's actually Sainted this time, so it's a 416 who will have to face rather than the ACS.
Well, now it's a little bit of a, I guess, slower and steadier BDS. They're concerned about the runouts, which obviously kicked things off and almost locked things down with the air jab around the corner too that wasn't quite caught out and wasn't quite locked off. Always is dancing around the cigar desk, making sure he can keep himself mobile and not caught out by the cacophony of frag grenades that are frequently in the pockets of BDS. Now they know where the angles are and they know how to play them, but Renshiro is almost the first to suffer, angling towards Pixel.
No, it's just hiding, patiently waiting. Shaiko will be putting up some breaching charges from below, hoping to deal some damage to these players and take them out of their comfort positions. As the lambs repelling up, window right above Terrace will be waiting for someone to potentially cross, or will be waiting for that perfect moment for him to repel in. The window, flashbangs will be coming through. Joystick is holding that. There is, of course, the helpless Sizer as well, who's just juggling in between that window and the white stairs. A grenade now will be tossed in as well, but there's no one actually inside the side, and they should be aware of that based on all these explosives that are going off and no one really dealing any damage. They should know they're all around it, and with 40 seconds left, BDS, they need to push now.
And push they seem to want to do as they put their eyes towards the focus above them. They, well, fling a frag grenade that seemed to keep rolling all the way up the stairs and almost suffer on the man that's already swung onto the balcony. But there's Dan, there's Shaiko, there's Joystick. One apiece for big names, and there's another. Shaiko doubles down, but the collection is coming to Dan. This C4 almost does big, but the push comes through, and there's the lockdown. Shepard closes the door of the freezer, but there's another response. Trade for trade and blow for blow. Two big teams that are going all the way home right now. Shepard locks himself in with the shotgun, though, and keeps things in Empire's favor.
Turns back at least this round into their hands, because it looked like BDS was almost able to steal it. Make sure they would be going up 4-0, but Empire is doing some damage control right now. They're making sure to at least get that first round. Ideally, they will be able to pick up the next two as well, so an even split is what they would have to deal with. But we know, we saw it on Oregon, that was a 4-2 to come through, turn into a 7-3. Not really ideal there for Empire. They need to make sure they get as many rounds right now on their defense as they possibly can, because otherwise it is looking very grim for them.
They could push themselves to an even split. They could push themselves back into the balance here, but they are still playing this game of toe-to-toe. A dangerous dance of blow for blow that often leads with the team that's suffering going, oh no, at the end of the day. BDS, they've been pretty in control right now. Shaiko has been pretty in control so far, leading on the board with 6-3, and unfortunately we don't have that same story from the defenders. For all the hype and talk we've done of Empire throughout the day of it being a very solid unit, a machine of cogs, of parts, yada yada, you all know the analogy. At this point, they are still missing that bit of polish, that bit of shine that is able to push themselves and reflect some of the aggression BDS are putting back against them.
That's it. As soon as BDS is warmed up, as soon as they are ready to go, they will not stop either until that win is in their hands, and that is what they are aiming for. That is what they're currently hunting for. Every single member from the likes of BDS hoping to be the ones that can make the difference in these rounds. And often, of course, they do pick them up, as they are currently 3-1 up. They just won the previous map quite convincingly as well. Just need to make sure they do not get complacent. They do not need to give Empire any more hope than they currently have, because it's a dangerous thing.
Yana makes her way through, tries to get all the information they want on this top floor, and so far, nobody. Empire, they're not holding on, they're not stacking up and stepping in, they're not keeping themselves locked in now, but they do still have 2 stories left to fall through. It becomes a bit of a dangerous stance on verticality, and you look at the C4s in pocket and the worry that might be befalling their feet as they go for the approach. The air jab's tucked in on the corner. They're making sure they suffer no more of those big bold rotations Dan played before, but it seems like Empire are happy to hand all of this over to BDS for now. They're saying, fight us on the ground floor. It's a big, flat firefight. There's big angles you can hold from Coat all the way across to the 2 bakeries. Obviously, you have the angle around the bar and the cocktails area too. It's dangerous on an approach for any team regardless of what's still standing. And Empire, they're trusting in that right now.
Definitely trusting in that, but it's not really working out as Shaiko peeks in, gets the kill, and so always will be starting it off here for BDS. The 4th round potentially into the making for them, as Rinshiro still busy working that hammer. Already got 12 charges slapped up on that floorboarding, and a grenade will mess up. Rafal luckily to escape alive. Somehow still managed to take down the Electroclaw, however, so the goal was accomplished and the hatch will be opened up, and BDS thus will be able to go for that freezer drop that was in the making for so long. And look at that, no one is ready for it, no one is there to counter it. Just then, that doesn't even have a shield anymore, and Shaiko that's around the corner to try and hunt him down. He is the last man standing, really, to make sure that this push won't come through, and the Gemini Replicator will give away the game. Pre-fire will come, but Dan will fall to Shaiko nonetheless, and in these last 30 seconds, Shaiko will be pushing through to the actual bars and allowing for a bit of breathing space for the rest of BDS, who are looking to get this plant on the way any second now.
Shepard has found his way back inside. The pings are coming pretty continually, and Joystick is there with a save over the shoulder, but Shaiko finds his 3rd, looking for his 4th, but he can't quite find it. Shepard went big last round and is continuing that trend. Peppers some pellets into the backs of anyone that tries to make the rotation. The call is coming, and there is Iana to save the grace of the planter. Scyther hasn't found anyone on this angle and now finds himself in a 2 versus 1 post-plant situation. The pings are continually, they're dug in on Coffee. The other one is back in the freezer itself, and all flashes are expended at this point onwards. Brede cannot find anywhere to stand up, but is concerned and saved by the cover. Scyther says no to that and swings himself around all the way on the door. Dances a very dangerous game, goes for his pistol for the close quarters confrontation and finds it. Scyther! An unbelievable clutch, does what they haven't been able to do before, and finds the 2nd round for Empire.
Empire able to get this clutch on the way, and that is a very important one. Just fires another couple of rounds into the head of the Yana, the last one that he had to dispatch before this diffuser could be coming through. And it is going to be Empire right now. 3-2. They are still behind just by 1 round, mind you. So the margin of BDS is minimum. They definitely managed to make a big upset happen during this round, because probably BDS already counted that one as semi-won, especially with that diffuser down, with about 25 seconds for the Empire member to play with. And that leaves us right now in a 3-on-2 situation with Empire all riled up and fired up after that beautiful clutch.
Hey, same. 3-2. I can only imagine the sound of Geo. I actually heard it across England. Heard her scream then.
Attackers need to locate and defuse as many bombs as they can.
I would imagine. Yeah, no, that's like totally believable. Not even a single doubt to that.
No. And as she crept in, locked atop the lion's nest, perched and waiting to swoop down. Sorry, I love that mental image.
No worries.
Hey, 3-2. Empire's still not done though, because 3-3, let's be real, still a pretty standard split. Still puts you in a bit of an unfortunate situation because you've still got a lot of work to do on your attack on this map. Cafe does generally lean itself to the standard familiar 4-2 splits. So even if Empire are able to pull this, they're still technically one step behind the beaten path. It's big, bold, clutch plays. We saw those from BDS's defense on Coastline, and then we saw BDS's attack on Coastline just nowhere. And you worry for Empire now at this situation. If that's what they're banking on, will they have a little bit more when they go to the opposite side?
That's indeed the question. Are they going to be able to pull off a better attacking half than BDS is currently already putting up? Because 3 rounds on Cafe, and mind you, it were the first 3 rounds as well. It's pretty impressive. You might want to argue that they should have won a couple of more here. 1 or 2 maybe, because that was 2 clutches in a row now from Empire. Good spot coming through from Brede. Knows exactly where Always will be right now, but he continues to move as he falls down up until the 2nd floor. Near to the actual bomb site, and that means the upstairs pressure that he wanted to basically practice is gone.
Now then, as Renshiro creeps his way towards the pixel area, towards the back, the core of this 2nd story, the white corridor that acts as the spine of all of the rest of the hold in the body. You cut it off, and everything often starts to fall to bits. Scyther is ready round the corner. They have the shield and the ADSs to keep themselves safe. I believe they still got the hatch soft, so they'll have to pop that open if they want to find a quick escape. More than capable, though, and more than ready is this, the steady approach across the center. It's a methodical clear from BDS on the 2nd story. They're not letting themselves get wrapped up into the clutches they've suffered and faced against before. They're making sure that they can make this work at their pace.
Putting up some pressure, some utility being tossed in. Saito, together with Joystick, the 2 members left still up on that top floor. Quick shotgun shot could be enough to close and, well, basically open up that hatch and close the chapter upstairs. However, they have to be careful. Zalems, I was going to say, it was on that window repelled up, but then it's going to be able to dispatch him from a run out from that garage again. It's the 2nd time he managed to pull one off right there, right now, and that means it's up to Shaika now to try and, well, basically bring things back into BDS their favor, as he seems to be aware of the fact that there is still some pressure up above. Gets a first kill to start things off. It's a big one onto side. There's still another player right behind that shield. A missed shot right there onto the white stairs as Joystick will be receiving some pressure from those flashbangs to come in. It is Shaiko soon to be putting down some more pressure together with Brede, who seems to be moving in as well. A bit of a damage, a bit of a tag to come down onto Joystick as well. But 20 seconds left mean BDS needs to hurry.
And that's ticking very quickly away. We've seen them suffer on the pressure before, and it led to Dan almost getting a really good clutch off because everything came down to the wire of that final plant. Brede swings blindly in the smoke and can't quite find his way to the plant. Oh no! He goes down and the diffuser finds him too. 4 versus 3 versus 2 as Rafal digs himself in on the close corners. There's a man either side! How did they pull that? I thought they did for a second, but no! The way it looked like the overlines laid up was that the final kill swung his favor, but a second too late, out of time, out of mind. And out of chances there. Empire 3-3. You've done enough to get yourself an even split from what was an opening you probably would rather forget. However, the tough thing now is how you're going to open your attacks, how you're going to lead yourself in. You have momentum in your pockets, under your wings, and on your favor. Can you be the flying force that takes this over, or will this be a BDS lockout?
That is the question we are looking to see answered. At least Empire did maximum damage control for that first half after they were 3-0 behind. Yes, of course, you're not going to be working with that 4-2 split you would so gladly want to have as soon as you start out on a map like Cafe. but it's not that far away from it. Just win one round and you are suddenly in the lead again and can continue from there on forward. Make sure that you will be more consistent than BDS on their attack, and make sure that your attacks strike harder and more efficiently than BDS did. That would be the way for Empire to make sure that they will be taking this map win here. And not only the map win here, but also that one map advantage into the grand final, because that is where they would be headed.
Setting themselves on the top floor, a force and a place where they can really play around with. Now, obviously, you've got to take into consideration all the possible outcomes, and I think I'm going to cite the fact that that worked as a 3-3 split apiece. And if we have another day of those, that means, well, BDS will find themselves on map point potentially. So Empire, as I said, they got to make sure they don't suffer that full rotation. Even if they come back to swing on 3, it puts yourself in that death-defying moment, and sometimes you really don't want to just be playing and swinging and hoping and praying.
2 minutes, 30 seconds on that clock. Empire are bringing the Kali, an operator we haven't really seen coming out from the likes of BDS yet. It's supposed to work as a replacement for Thatcher to allow the Heart Breacher of Den to put up some more pressure into the likes of Freezer. Making sure you can open up those walls and create these long angles you can bully them from.
Well, the long angles and the bullying is always the concern and the worry, but it seems like Empire are weighing everything up. And to be fair, if I'm going to cite earlier performances, Empire's idea and control was good. The frag grenade that bounced around the back, I'm curious if that was for a bit of utility that they'd rather get rid of, or a myth throw. I assume there was a Banshee potentially playing around that space that they opted to drop to make sure their collapse down from potentially the skylight would be unimpeded. But with Shepard applying the pressure here, takes care of the Maestro cam, which knew its time was up anyway when they saw the big gun Kali peer around the corner. It's again slow and steady. Lems going for a bit of a rotation underneath, trying to apply some pinch pressure behind the backs of the setup as Shaiko dances and dabbles in danger on the door, and Shiro is the first to find somebody as Scyther is locked out forevermore. Now, as more pellets pop off, Shaiko decides to pop 1-2 on his way out the door. He somehow swings around and finds the head of Dan, and there's one more, and Shiro wants to keep pace with his teammate.
Normally would say as soon as those Excaras pop that you would be falling back into safety. Not Shaiko, no. The man just stands there and is waiting for it. He's seeing it as an opportunity to get away with a kill for free and then fall back towards the site. As it is all up to always a joystick now. The last two members standing on the likes of Empire. Only 35 seconds left on the clock. Joystick seems to be worrying about a potential cam or anything to be in place. And it shows you that they do not really have a clue about what's exactly going on right now. So pre-fires will be placed through the walls, with only 20 seconds left on the clock. Always will be the last man standing as Renchiro takes out his teammate. Joystick falls. It's all up to him now. Gets a beautiful pre-fire right there through the head of Shaiko, who went aggressive. Gets a second one as well to get it in motion, but Renchiro was there to respond right after, and BDS pick up their first defensive round. They retake their lead after losing 3 consecutive rounds in a row, and they're building towards that beautiful 6 mark that puts you up at least in overtime contention.
Renchiro with a 4K, stacking up and setting himself down with an Alder that just cuts across that top floor, and my, what a way to swing it. Big plays made. And he's obviously put the pressure there, but at the end of it, it was a BDS lockout. They set themselves up in that 5 versus 1 situation, and Empire tried to weigh up, tried to measure where things were being played, but BDS were just a little bit too ahead of them, a step-for-step blow. Hey, where are we? It's Cafe. It does work in the favor of the defenders, so it's not the biggest surprise that at least 1 or 2 of these will go their way, but it does not in any way mean Empire are out and over just yet. Let's see how they start to approach the mid-floor now as we head down, get a book, put your feet up, and read this attack.
That's the thing. They need to find out what Empire is bringing. They need to find out the strategy that is behind it. And then they need to dip into their own pool of counter strategies and counter setups and maybe even movements to make sure that Empire will not succeed in the way that they will attack. And of course, it is BDS that put up the actual first step. They took the first move by choosing the sites, by setting up. It's up to Empire right now to set them on a checkmate for this round and make sure that there's nothing that BDS can do to win this round.
Cheeky claws are the lockout for the momentum in the moments there as they set themselves up with an idea of control, because it seems like BDS are starting to find themselves in full control. Empire, they've got to rebuild and restructure and reapproach and reassess, and unfortunately there's a lot of work to do in a short space of time when you're only a few rounds away from potentially being knocked down to the lower bracket game later on today. They are looking for the read and a bit of attention towards anybody that might be playing a bit of retention around this top floor, and they see the Kaid buried inside the freezer. This frag grenade, well, we know exactly where this one's going. Rolls home and drops the shield, and Alems is able to survive, but he knows he probably doesn't have much longer as he peppers a bullet towards the angle there. He's got nowhere else to really go right now, but he does have a bit of support. If he can hit this rotation and not get caught by the angled eyes towards that skylight, he might find some safety, but no, that's not how he wants to play. He wants to lean in with aggression here and try and push the fight back towards Empire as the approach starts to hit white.
Hector Claw there, not perfectly placed, and that allows him to create an opening into the garage right now. No, in the garage of the actual freezer, as Saiter will be taking down Alems and taking a little bit of damage in return. A little bit, I mean almost half of it, as Dan will pick up that second kill. It's Renshiro to fall now as well. Only 3 members left alive on the likes of BDS to try and get this round under control still. They don't want to lose one of their defensive rounds already. They want to build off the momentum that they just managed to, well, build up during that round. Doesn't seem like Empire is willing to let them, as they're putting full pressure right now on that top floor, working their way down.
Heavy hits of hammers are all that echo and hallow these halls right now as they look towards the destruction that is being done across the boards. They're concerned, BDS, of the positions they can take. Quickly looking for new angles and opportunities, but Empire seems to be firing on all cannons and barrels all around the borders of this hold now. The ones that they want to try and etch out are going to be marked by Shaiko, taking his pen and leaning himself aggressively towards the backside of pillars, making sure it's clear. He's looking to try and pick ahead from the story upwards and see if he can stop this story, quickly turning into an Empire round and finding ourselves back into a draw. 26 seconds, there's the first. Scyther goes down. Shaiko still has control of pillars and still has a bit of a presence and a bit of a pressure here, but Dan is the one that's coming around from behind, always sneaks through, and the diffuser does too, and there's a quick trade. Suddenly it's only Bride left, fires through the second story. They snuck it in, and Empire put one more on the board. Back and forth we go.
Shaiko able to pick up on the cover of the actual diffuser planter, but didn't actually, well, pick up the diffuser planter himself. They knew that the bomb, of course, was going to be going down. It would be 45 seconds on the clock quickly, so he tried to sneak himself through. Wanted to even run through the smoke himself to make sure that the plant wouldn't go down, but lost his life in that process. And as the man is currently 12-7, he's really pulling some weight right here for BDS, as we are in this final map. We are in the final, well, 4 rounds of the normal time in this game. And it looks like we might be going to overtime with how things are currently going. And then we are suddenly in that best of 3 sprint race. He was going to be able to pick up those first 2 rounds the quickest, and he would be the winner.
The perfect response from Empire was the one where they kept themselves level, but also took a win, as I said, in these opening 3 rounds. They had to make a mark and make an impact before they found themselves on map point, and they had to keep some of that momentum that they had on the latter half of the first section of this game. On their defense, they had to translate some of that to their attack, and they've managed to do it. Now it's a matter of building. Now it's a matter of keeping the fear and keeping the pressure onto BDS, who found themselves in an unfortunate structural situation where things very quickly capitalized and closed down around them. They have the saving grace of Shaiko. He's stepped up and stepped into some situations where he's otherwise probably not being able to get to before, shouldn't be allowed to. If he can keep playing the sneaky plays as he's picked up the mantle and the mask of the vigil, maybe he can start to try and swing some of these rounds with the heft that we know he's capable of moving.
Joystick has so much pressure behind that name of him, as he used to be one of those best players in the world, and he still is, of course, as he is on the top level right now, on the top stage, playing during the major It doesn't have the same impact anymore as he had to, but it doesn't have to because, of course, he still has his teammates that will be there to show up. But the question is, what if he will be coming alive suddenly and find that old grace he has and like rival Shaiko in the fragging power? What happens with Empire when that happens? Because currently it is Shaiko, mind you, that is leading the charge for BDS with quite a big margin as well.
Now, as Shaiko starts to find a bit of rotation, a bit of an angle, this is, I think, the longest we've had every single player still standing for a little bit of time, and that might not last much longer before he could even begin to get the C4 out of his pocket. He was ripped and torn and thrown asunder inside the laundry room to take a towel, put it on his head, and wash off. Now, Shepard, with the angle towards Pillars, is offering a bit of support here on the Scyther on the quick clearing collapse. They're using the Kali to open up big, deep angles and make sure they can cut off the rotations and the movement as Joystick applies the split pressure behind. All BDS players have hit themselves now onto the floor with the site, with Shaiko playing a little bit off the piece. The other three dug in on the site itself, something we didn't really see from Empire. They instead opted to leave it a little bit clear and play around the map, and Mixed Success story here is one where they want to make sure they dictate a complete success as they make sure these stories are falling under their pressure. And Shiro, the first to suffer, but Shaiko, the first to truly be caught by Scyther, who's there to make sure nothing becomes a presence on these second stories. Now the frag grenades start to fall towards the bodies that are dancing underneath. They can't quite cook up the storm though, as always is the one that shuts down BDS. 5 versus 2 Empire, back to standing 10 feet tall, and 4 versus 1 Renshiro. Maybe the only giant that can stop them right now, but unfortunately is taken out of the top of the sky. They cut down the beanstalk.
Too aggressive there from BDS, too aggressive there from Shaiko, trying to go for those rotates. When both of them were in relative safe positions, they gave away almost 3 kills to Empire there and put them into an even bigger advantage during those dying seconds. Mind you, there was only like 40 left. Why are you going for the rotate back then when they're still clearly working on that top floor? Didn't really work out for it. And that leaves us with Empire right now, 1 round in front of BDS, and that is the major part. If they manage to pick up yet another one right here, that damage control they did during that first half will be coming in huge, because that will put them onto a map point, onto match point, of course, onto that 1 point as well, where you get the extra map during the grand finals if you would be winning it.
That's it. That's the presence and that's the passion right now. This best of 3 for these two teams that probably expect, regardless of the result now, to meet each other again in the finals. They play this for that 1 map presence on the best of 5. That final potential decider map goes their way by default, shortens the day, and means that they're only potentially 2 from towering over taking another trophy. As Joystick said he wanted to in his announcement video, he's tired of his old ones, and to be fair, thanks to the passion we've seen from the last couple of rounds from this Russian team, well, them very much making a statement and a case for why they deserve a new one.
I'm really confused about the electric claw that has been placed on the soft part right above the reinforced wall. Now I get why, because the Kali charge will not be able to blow that one up. However, as soon as Empire will be firing shots from above that, it will be easily picked up. So it'll just be a matter of information here on the likes of BDS Empire. If they are going to be able to find out that the electric claw is indeed placed on the soft part of the wall, they will be easily taking care of it and don't even have to waste a piece of utility to get that wall open.
Yeah, juggling with assumptions. I believe the idea is here. They're hoping Kali pops up and swings and tries to aim low, because as we all know, we've seen those claws played below before. But now with it teetering at the top of the wall, it becomes an argument of, do they have all the information they need to know exactly where the play is coming through? Will it just be a cost of utility wasted as they find themselves with a few more seconds taken out of their pockets? It seems like they're happy to play their intel gathering game, burning the ADSs they know they need to get rid of and making sure they can capitalize entirely on the angles and the drones that they need. Alems is the first to suffer. Takes a shoulder's worth of damage, but is more than enough and more than capable to keep moving. Rafal has lost and blown his C4. Curious where that was gone and what that was used to, but also both of Always' frag grenades are gone too, and only one of those led to a little bit of damage to Alems.
A little bit of damage done indeed, nothing to worry about really. We're still going to be able to get into these gunfights. The bigger worry might be the gun he's using, the TCSG, as it really hasn't been working out too well for them. Of course, if you manage to get a tag down, it will be taken away a huge chunk of those hit points. But you need to go for the kills. You cannot just go for tagging every now and then. This joystick seems to be willing to go for a bit of an aggressive push right here to these white stairs. It's going to be spawning out ahead. A beautiful shot. LMs will fall. However, the response will be there. Shaiko takes down Scooter. Cider, I must say, as joystick right to respond to Rafal himself. Shaiko still inside of the waiting washroom here. It's a quad kill suddenly from joystick, as he will be able to pick up all these 4 kills. He's waiting and trying to find the last one now, but it's always that we'll be able to pick up that kill. Thus, Empire are leading the charge, and they are continuing to lead the charge after an almost ace to come through. After a very scrappy BDS just panically and trying to frantically throw bodies at him, weren't able to shut down the man, and that means it's now match point here for Empire.
Joystick. Hey, how you been, man? Nice to see you. Nice to see Prime Joystick. Nice to see the shiny walkout joystick that shows up. And then you know you've got a squad right there. A couple of his teammates go through first and act as a bit of intel gathering, but what a time for him to show up and put one of his trademark famous rounds down on the board. My word.
Attackers need to locate and defuse as many bombs as they can.
All right, 40 seconds of prep phase here for BDS. 40 seconds for them to try and get everything sorted, because this could just as well be the final round of this upper bracket final. That is something you have to imagine right now. BDS could be knocked down to face Virtus Pro yet again. The team that have managed to shut down earlier. And if they do so, it will be maybe even the biggest upset that we could have imagined during this major so far.
One more round, Empire. One more is needed on the board, and then you can sit back, put your feet up, relax, and watch your Russian compatriots try and take down the team that you have the possibility of dispatching. You might be angling towards an All-Russia final. You might be angling towards another trophy in the hands of the CIS region, but one more round is all that separates you from the potential of fighting for it. Can you attack with the ferocity that you've been able to do before against a site that you might want to try and replicate some success on here? Shaiko set himself up close quarters. Alems underneath has the possibility of this C4 as well to try and catch anybody that goes in early, but that's not really the game Empire likes to play. They're focused, set up, and solid. This is the game Shaiko likes to play, though. Drift back, put bullets towards the windows, and return some anger with some anger, some violence with some violence, and see the mix and mash and make you can bring towards the baked cake here inside this piano room.
All right, 4 to 6, 2 minutes left. BDS, their pressure is rising as Empire is at their doorsteps. They are about to be taken around right here as they are pushing forward to it. That's a beautiful impact to come through. Joystick takes down Shaiko as he takes a lot of damage himself, and that is the top fragger of BDS. Removed off the board in a very crucial round as Alems now takes down a ton of damage as well, trying to return fire with that TCSG, but not able to shots quite yet. He needs to make sure that he stays alive. Another loss for BDS will be detrimental as Saita picks him up. It's a 3v5 with only 84 seconds left on that clock. Empire are looking to close it out here.
Two huge takes is what's echoing throughout all of the years of everybody on that Empire side right now, and two big losses is what is currently on the boards for BDS, but they still have the capability of showing up. Renshiro and Rafal have been able to put some bodies down in this game so far. Bride, sure, he's not having the best round, but he is the player with the possibility of clutch potential. There is a minute for Empire to weigh up all their options and situations, and the early smoke canister there is a bit of a breathe, so they can pull back, reassess, reevaluate, and reposition. You can see Scyther is creeping up the stairs, but Dan's the first, and Renshiro is the next to go. Now as Scyther swings up, there's Bride, but there's always, now it's only Bride, now it's nobody! Empire, take the game, take the map, take the best of three, take a break as they get to sit back and watch BDS go up against Fours in the lower bracket final.
Well, they used to be named Force, now they're Virtus Pro.
You are correct. That's the moment. X4's current Virtus Pro. I'm sorry.
You know what it means? We are continuing the France versus Lucian matchups that we have had over the entire course